You stand at the blackboard, Daddy. In the picture I have of you, a cleft in your chin instead of your foot. But no less a devil for that, no, not any less the black man who beat my pretty red heart in two. I was 10 when they buried you. At 20 I tried to die and get back to you. I thought even the bones would do. These verses depicted the poet's old memory of her father. She described not only her father but her lover as a devil. Also, the poem's intention of committing suicide was mentioned. These are from a poem called Daddy by Sylvia Plath.
Sylvia Plath was an American poet, novelist, and short story writer. She was one of the most dynamic and admired poets of the 20th century. Sylvia Plath was born in Boston, Massachusetts. Her mother was a master's student at Boston University when she met Plath's father, who was her professor. They were married in January of 1932. In 1940, when Plath was 8 years old, her father died as a result of complications from diabetes. He had been a strict father, and both his authoritarian attitudes and his death drastically defined Plath's relationships and her poems, most notably in her elegiac and infamous poem, Daddy. Daddy was written on October 12, 1962. A month after Plath had separated from her husband and moved with their 2 children from their home in London. She took her life on February 11, 1963. Plath takes us on a journey back in time to World War II by frequently changing the setting of her poem from a Polish town to a train on its way to Germany, and finally Germany. In addition to incorporating the war, Plath also uses setting to connect us to her personal life. Plath's father, who was a professor of German and biology at Boston University. In line 51, she says, "You stand at a blackboard, Daddy, in the picture I have of you." This line transitions the setting from dark and violent Germany to her father's classroom.
In stanza 1, the speaker says that she has no longer trapped in the relationship with her father. She wants to escape from him. This is why she repeats "you do not do" and the black shoe in the following line. They are metaphors for her father. She feels herself like a foot for 30 years. The foot becomes poor and white because it has been suffocated by the shoe. Even though the speaker loves her father, she needs to kill him to free herself, or she will live under her painful memories with him. However, she views her father as a god, not only with adoration, but fear as well. In fact, Plath's father, Otto, died when Plath was 8. He was diagnosed diabetes and his toe turned black because of gangrene. This is why she described his toe big as a Frisco seal. In line 4, she says she prayed for her father's recovery. She wished to get her father's back. Adieu in last line as a German expression means "oh, you." The speaker's father came from Poland, where German was spoken as a main language. She explained that she knew her father grew up in Poland. However, towns' names were similar there and the cities were flattered in World War II, so she could not identify which town he grew up. In this stanza, the speaker says, "I never could tell you." It shows that she can no longer talk to you, since there is a gap between her and her father. She was afraid of her father. Whenever she tried to talk to him, she felt a tongue stuck in my jaw. Therefore, she would never know where his roots from. When the speaker tried to talk to her father, she could hardly speak. She feels her tongue is stuck in the barbed wire. Edge in German means eye. She felt speechless so that it repeated many times in the conversation. The speaker also mentions that she thought every German was you. It shows that she actually does not close to him. Rather, she sees him as she sees every German man. In this stanza, the speaker says that she feels like a Jew under her German father. What she endured under her father did not less than the oppression Jews suffered in the Holocaust. This is why she mentions Dachau, Auschwitz, and Belsen in the line. These are the concentration camps where millions of Jews were slaughtered and killed by Nazis during World War II. The speaker compares the snows of the Troll, the clear bear of Vienna, to what Nazis said the racial purity. She implies that gypsies were part of her heritage. Like Jews, they both suffered from the execution by Nazis. In this stanza, Luftwaffe is the German Air Force. Even though the speaker's father did not become a Nazi soldier, she narrated many figures in World War II. She also mentions that Nazis were the advocates of specific genetic strain. They only wanted to breed out Aryan men in the world. There is another metaphor here in the first line of this stanza. Swastika is a term that Nazis used to describe ancient Indian. In the second line, the swastika is so big that it blocks the sky during war. It may be relevant to the German Air Force bombed many cities in England. As the speaker says, every woman adores a fascist. It may be a sarcasm that women prefer dominant men. This stanza is more relevant to Plath's personal life. Since her father was a professor, she portrayed a vivid image in the classroom. The speaker mentions that her father has a cleft chin as a cleft foot of a devil, the black man. However, it does not mean that her father is any less of a devil in her mind. In fact, it reveals the main point. That is, she has seen her father as a god, but she also viewed him as a devil. Speaker's father died when she was still in a young age. Even though the first line reveals that her father had broken her heart, we can see a deeper understanding about the relationship between daughter and father. No matter how cruel he treated her, she loved him and tried to commit a suicide at 20, only to see him again. She thought that even if they would not see each other, they could bury their bones together. The first line shows that the speaker failed to commit suicide because someone pulled her out of the sack. In line, I met a model of you. She realized that she needed to recreate her father. In Freud's theory, a girl who falls in love with her father tends to marry someone similar to him. Therefore, she decided to find someone who was similar to her father. Mein Kampf means my struggle in German. This stanza shows that the speaker married a man loved torture, so she said he had a love of a rock and a screw. At this point, she finally found a man look and act like her father, a German man. As a result, she described her relationship with her father as a phone call. Since she had accomplished her goal, she hung up the call forever. As the speaker's claim, she has already killed her father. Even though her father had died, she is still responsible for his death, since one man that she refers in the line is her father. The second man is most likely in reference to her husband. She depicted her husband as a vampire, who was supposed to be just like her father. The last stanza reveals that the speaker's father, though dead, has lived like a vampire to torture her. She says that he must be killed in a religious way, just like a vampire in ancient stories. This is why she mentions that the villagers never like you. With the final line, she tells her father that she is through with him. Even though he had died for many years, she was unable to move on without knowing her father was a brutal man.
There are several ways to interpret the poem. First, Plath's work to break free from his father's shadow. The author stated her father is like a black shoe, and she's the foot that's been confined in it for 30 years in the first stanza. Although Plath described her father as a god, a statue rose from the Atlantic Ocean in stanzas 2 and 3. She quickly turned him into a swastika. a symbol of the Nazi Party, while the author herself may well be a Jew. This puts Sylvia and her father in an opposite position where her father brought suffering and pain to her. Critic Robert Phillips wrote, and I quote, "Finally, the one way Plath was to achieve relief, to become an independent self, was to kill her father's memory, which in Daddy she does by a metaphorical murder, making him a Nazi and herself a Jew. She dramatizes the war in her soul, from its opening image onward, that of the father as an old shoe in which the daughter has lived for 30 years, an explicitly phallic image, according to the writings of Freud. The sexual pull and tug is manifest, and the degree of Plath's mental suffering supported by the reference to Dachau, Auschwitz, and Belsen. Daddy could also be an anti-war and anti-Nazi statement. The poem is full of World War II references. Panzer is the abbreviation of a World War II era German word, Panzerkampfwagen, which means tank, an important weapon that helped Germany storm the Europe in the early days of the war. Aryan Eye, bright blue, was a reference to the Nazis' promotion of the false notion that glorified the German people as members of the Aryan race. Mein Kampf was Adolf Hitler's autobiography. Sylvia Plath used all these words when describing her father, while she stand with the Jews, indicating some degree of anti-war and anti-Nazi ideology.
Sylvia Plath invited all her readers to be the witnesses of her psychological life. Despite the misfortune in her life brought to the untimely death, tons of masterpieces about her rage and mentality will be passed down forever. This is the end of today's video. We hope you enjoy it and got what you're looking for. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you at the next video.